One of the aspects where the church's crisis fails to address is good discernment in the spiritual life. If we look at the confusion in the church at the moment, it is the one institution that should help us discern so that we can be transformed in Christ, so that we can go through the purgative, illuminative, unitive stages, that process of sanctification, to know what action is going to separate us from that path of transformation, to allow us to be transformed, to help us along the path of transformation. And, in talking into the modern day LGBT movement, that's the label that they use themselves. Okay, this is the label that they've used. So, if you want to address somebody that's labeled themselves as that is the label that I will use. That's not giving validation or affirmation to the movement. That is just speaking into the movement. And the reality is, in the Christian life, we are all disordered. Every single man and woman, child, everybody, we all have disorders to one or other extent. There exists in the human condition, there exists nobody that is disorder free. Now, some of us are on a different, way, a different, how would you say, spectrum of it, in the sense that somebody might be, have a lot of disorders in their life, and others have very, very, very few. But we are all experience this because of original sin, because of the fallen world we live in. And I really wanted to kind of challenge you on something. I want to challenge the LGBT community. I want to challenge you out of love to see the mirage that has been put in front of you. And I'm going to use an author that's... Some people are going to get annoyed that I'm using this author, but he is one of the greatest people that I know in challenging the current, in the last century, to challenge people to see beyond the mirage that has been offered to them. And the author I'm going to use is Valentin Tomberg, and his book, Meditations on the Tarot, a journey to Christian Hermeticism. Now, before anybody starts jumping up and down, I do not practice occultism. I've never gone to tarot card readers. I do not fortune tellers, mediums. I have never been involved in the occult whatsoever. But the story about how I heard about Valentin Tomberg was back in 2018. Taylor Marshall was doing a video at the time. I was looking at a lot of his videos, and Taylor Marshall kind of criticized Hans Urs von Balthasar for doing a review for this book, Cardinal Hans Urs von Balthasar, and he was making the opinion at the time that this was, another modernist infiltration, or I don't exactly remember his words, but he wasn't very happy with this book. And I agreed with him. I agreed with Taylor Marshall at the time. And I remember posting it on my Facebook page, a little rant about this book and Valentin Tomberg. And a few Catholics actually reached out to me and said, Robert, no, you can't judge that book by its cover. And it has brought many, many people to the Catholic Church, because the book is really talking about Valentin Tomberg's journey from the Theosophical New Age movement into Catholicism. And he became a very traditional Catholic. And in order to speak back into the world he came from, he's giving this book. I encourage people to read it in the sphere of philosophy rather than a religious book. But there is one concept that Valentin Tomberg does talk on, which you could link into Catholic discernment, which is discerning the sphere of mirages. What is mirage? What is truth, small t, and truth, capital T, right? There are truths that we see. There is true, good, and beautiful presented to us by Satan. Satan is an angel of light. He will present truths, goods, beautiful things. But we are called, and this is the mission of the Catholic Church, we're called to discern these things. What is the truth, the good, the beauty, all capitals, because a mirage can appear true, but it's not real, and it was a fascinating, really, meditation that Valentin Tomberg is given in this book. Now, and just get another book. Here I have so many books. The reason I'm promoting Valentin Tomberg and that particular book is because, you have the likes of Roger Buck, who has written Cor Jesu Sacratissimum, and The Gentle Traditionalist and The Gentle Traditionalist Return. Valentin Tomberg was instrumental in Roger Buck's conversion from the New Age movement. Okay. And the reality is, he has lessons to teach us in a time when the church is in great confusion, because the church is the one institution which should lead us to navigate the mirages that Satan puts in our life. To say to us, we are all disordered. There's nobody, no, you're intrinsically disordered group over there, but you're less disordered. Hold on a second. We are all cut from the same cloth. And some of us have, our different problems. Somebody could have a disorder with drink, sex, money, gambling, food. Pick your disorder, where everybody is tempted with different ways. And, we are called to discern this. And the church is supposed to be the institution to help us on this discernment process. Sadly, in our seminaries, in our religious communities, there's been an immense confusion over the last number of decades. Immense confusion. We have lost the age-old process of leading souls to union with God. And when you read books like the Philokalia, the early church fathers, saints in the first millennium, they talk about this process, this way to union with God. When you read Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross, especially when you read St. Ignatius, he was there in these ecstasies, and he's having all these great spiritual experiences, and then he's very, very, very tired, and he says, well, no, hold on a second, are these spiritual experiences, what are they doing to me? Well, they're making me more tired. Maybe they're not from God. Maybe it's a mirage that I'm experiencing. So, the discernment process is really, 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 really important. And so it's in that sphere, Valentin Tomberg, thinking, hold on a second, this theosophical movement, what I'm involved in is a mirage. It's not the truth. Satan will propose true, good and beautiful. He has to, in order to stop us reaching the truth, the good, the beauty, union with God, transformation in Christ. We have to leave one sphere in order to enter another kingdom. Do you understand? And again, it's a book that's speaking into a different world, the world that Tomberg came from. But it's a book that has drawn many to the church, to the Catholic faith. And it's in that sphere I'm asking the LGBT movement, you cannot exempt yourself from the call to transformation. You cannot say, when I hear the likes of Timothy Radcliffe saying, well, I've had masses in London and, they're all nice people. That's fine. Many things I don't disagree with Timothy Radcliffe. But the challenge of spiritual transformation, do we offer that? No. And I speak talking to people who've been to that mass with Timothy Radcliffe, and then they've discovered, it's not leading us anywhere. There's no challenge here. You're not offering us the spirituality of Christian conversion. Come as you are and stay as you are. Whereas offer people the discipleship into Christian conversion. Now, to be clear, I'm not here talking about conversion therapy or any of those therapies. I'm talking about conversion, the conversion process that every Catholic is called to, which is the transformation, to be transformed by Christ, united to him. Theosis, deification, union with Christ. I did a video before of, 2 bottles of water being poured into the same jug. Which water is us and which water is God. We are closely united together. Christ unites us to. He pulls us, tugs us, draws us. Read the lives of the saints. That's the challenge I'm offering people. There are ways we need to change in the church and the conversations that are being had. You should never feel shame, anxiety, loneliness, or rejection for something you're experiencing. For what you experience out of no decision you've ever made. It's, as I said, we are all cut from the same cloth. But this is the challenge. This is the challenge to the universal challenge called to holiness, which Vatican II talked so much about and never actually sat down and gave us a proper manual. Okay, well, you're calling the universal call to holiness. Well, what is it? How do we get there? Well, one of the parts of the universal call to holiness is discernment. This is why you need people that have union with God to lead souls to union with God. That's why your bishop should have full union with God. And we can say that's not happening in the church. When we look at the appointments that have happened since the 1970s and what has gone on in seminaries, we can say bishops do not have union with God. Priests who do not have union with God. And the crisis of the church is laity will not have union with God because we don't have masters to be able to disciple us. Very, very, very few. Very few. It's a tragedy in the church. Mission deleted. This is the truth of it. And so, okay, we're all welcome. Todos, we're all welcome. But what is the mission of the church? Because it's the only mission, and Pope Benedict said this, to give us sanctifying grace, which leads us to union with God, which is a change of life, a metanoia. This is the challenge I'm offering that movement, to discern. Read Valentin Tomberg. Read his book. Read it. As a book of philosophy, as such. Not as you would read other, if you're ever studying philosophy, you'd be presented with Plato and whose similar concepts are mentioned. But, you will understand, we are called to be challenged more. Does anybody think that Satan is not offering a mirage to that movement? Of course he is. Satan tempts. Satan's mission is one single mission: to stop souls attaining union with God. That's it. That's it. If the discernment of spirits, the discernment process in your life, once you understand how he operates, then you just start discerning, well, what am I being presented with? Is it real? How our passions work? how they can be deformed, what they can lead to, Valentin Tomberg talks in great depth about chastity. Chastity can be very, very reductive thing. Oh, it's only physical. It's only one side. And yet it's a very, very broad virtue that encompasses many aspects of our life. Our heart, our emotions, our thinking, it's really one of the lost virtues that is pivotal in our spiritual life. Because, it's we're called to direct ourselves in a different way. I really do hope that the church returns to the deep mystical traditions of our church. It's really, really, really important. So I know it's a bit strange that I'm giving you these books, Valentin Tomberg. I ask people to read the Philokalia. You can also read Roger Buck's books, Cor Jesu Sacratissimum, The Gentle Traditionalist Return. But I'm also going to tie in another thing. Father Gobi in his messages, he talks about a false church and a false Christ several times. Actually in the message in Knock in Ireland, which was in 1988, which was around the time Lefebvre ordained the bishops, Our Lady is saying there are worse things. There are bishops doing worse things in the church. False Christ, false church. This is exactly what Tomberg is talking about. The crisis in the church is a real crisis of discernment. And the reason we have this crisis is those that should be in the state of union with God haven't arrived there. And so they're not able to say, hold on, there's a danger here. There's a danger for souls. We have to lead them away from the false church that has infiltrated the church. To what? To the truth, the light. That's why you have works like Maria Valtorta in this time. Because we're lost. And Christ says so. In the church. Again, as I said, this is my meditation on this, and this is my challenge, and it's given a spirit of love, not here to hate on anybody, but I challenge people listening to this video to learn the science of discernment. Learn the science of discernment, which is a process of discipleship, because this is what Christ was doing with his disciples. There was a whole time of a formation of don't judge. There's one chapter there where John says to Jesus, he says, I wish the Pharisees and the Sadducees could love you and convert and so forth. And Christ says, a full jug can't receive more water. It was an interesting throwaway comment that Christ makes. And sometimes we can be so full, we can't receive anything else. I know everything. And then we forget one of those key concepts, which Valentin Tomberg also talks about. Many spiritual writers talk about, church fathers talk about humility. Humility. Is my jug full of Christ, or is it full of what's inside me? That examination of conscience, that process of humility, it's pivotal. Pride and humility. I know everything. I'm fine. God made me this way. I'm made this way. I can't change. You have to accept me as I am, because God made me this way. Oh, so no, That's okay. That's okay. Like the Pharisees, God put us in this position. We know everything. Sadducees, the scribes, a full jug can't receive any more water. We are all called to change. We are all called to conversion. We all have disorder in our life. It's called the human condition. Things that draw us away, mirages that deflect us. And the traditional faith and morals, the apostolic faith of the church, should help you discern this. But sadly, we live in a very disordered world. You know, very, very disordered world. It's very, very sad. And the crisis in the church is precisely this, guys. And that's why, you know, it will take a few generations for this to work itself out, to work itself through. But you need to know this. You know, it's true. Because last year, on the 18th of December, a document was released which showed really the summit of the crisis in the church. The most viewed document ever on the Vatican website. This is what Cardinal Fernandez said a few months later when he's trying to explain, and, you know, after the kerfuffle and the uproar and the African bishops, oh, well, look, it's just blessings. No, Cardinal Fernandez. What you did was masterclass in deception. Masterclass in deception. The one institution that is called to be clear on the process of transformation is failing to be clear. You know, document comes out, the ink isn't dry, not even 24 hours have passed, and James Martin is blessing who? Lights, camera, action, New York Times, blah, blah, blah. Here I am, the first priest, blah, blah, blah. I'll make history. And when history is written, and James Martin was the first one. Blah. Because if you look into the movement, they don't believe in church teaching. We're getting there. The church is learning. In time it will change. Church teaching will change. Hold your horses. Don't be transformed. Stay with us. It's exactly what Valentin Tomberg is talking about. It's exactly the same ploy. Satan, don't be transformed. Don't be challenged. Stay as you are. You cannot change. God made you that way. Truths and truths. There is good, true and beautiful in the LGBT movement. Everybody acknowledges that. There is love there. Everybody acknowledges that. Otherwise, you know, go beyond. Look beyond. Think. Discern. Is this a movement that is totally exempt from the age-old process of discernment and change? Think about it. Because once you go beyond it, you might encounter love, capital L, far greater than you've ever experienced in union with God. Far greater. And you say, wow, I'd never exchange the heights of mystical union. I would never exchange the heights of mystical union for what the world is trying to offer. I would never go back there. Why would you? And that's what you're missing. Because the church will not teach you this now. They will not offer it. They will not challenge you. You don't need to be challenged. You're perfect. God made you that way. Todos. Forgive everybody in confession because there's no need for challenge there. I know many priests who have denied absolution and confession. Many of them. And for good reasons. Because the penitent doesn't want to change. and they go away sad. But sometimes this spurs them to a change that will change their life for good. You know, our pastors, our spiritual leaders, our bishops, they should be trainers in a gym, in the spiritual gym. You know, strengthening the sheep, strengthening their flock, strengthening our spiritual life. They should be experts in discernment, in challenge, but they're not. They're quiet. You have cardinals saying, we don't need you kneeling for communion. Why this Eucharistic? Slowing down Eucharistic processions. They don't have union with God. They don't have the minimal understanding of the spiritual life. I can guarantee you. I can guarantee you. They don't know. You know, what could be greater than kneeling for your God? An outward expression of an inward grace. But this is where we go. And there's one thing about Valentin Tomberg. And he was a traditional Catholic when he died. And as he died, he said all those earlier works, earlier theosophical works, you know, that's not me now. He had been transformed. He had understood theosis, deification. He had travelled. And he brings so many Catholics to the faith even today. That's the challenge I'm giving you. Between love and love. True and truth. Good and what is truly good. And very few will be able to disciple you and show you that. Go there. God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.